NFL news always breaks during the NFL Combine, and former Lions Pro Bowl guard has been given permission to seek a trade. What's up, guys? We have some potential news that might actually matter for the Chicago Bears. Jonah Jackson, the former Lion who was drafted in the third round in 2020 and was developed into a Pro Bowler while spending his first 4 seasons in Detroit, this last offseason he signed a big free agent contract with the Rams. It's not that the Lions didn't want him back, but they were already paying big money to Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker, and Penei Sewell. So matching the 3-year, $51 million deal that he got in LA wasn't really in the cards for Detroit. But now, just 1 year after signing Jackson to a big free agent contract, the Rams have given him permission to seek a trade. What is going on there? Considering he spent 4 of his first 5 years in the NFL working with Ben Johnson, and considering his trade market will likely not cost more than a fourth or fifth round pick, and the Bears might have to be interested here. So let's talk about why the Rams are trading him and why the Bears might be interested. First off, Jackson's play has dropped off since his Pro Bowl appearance in 2021. He started 16 games his first 2 years and developed into a Pro Bowler, but that was the last time he started a full season. He started just 13 games in 2022, 12 in 2023, and he only started 4 games this year for the Rams after signing the big deal. But he did also start 2 playoff games as well. But the Rams are clearly facing a rebuild now, and paying big money to a guard when they might also be trading Matt Stafford doesn't make much sense. But they also can't cut him either. He has 2 years left on his deal with cap hits of 14 and $22 million. If the Rams cut him, they would take on 17 million in dead cap hits over the next 2 years. They do, however, have an out in his contract next season, meaning if we did trade for him and it didn't work out, we could cut him next season and save $17 million with just over a $5 million dead cap hit. But I do still believe that Jonah Jackson is a very capable starting guard in the NFL with the potential to be even better if he can stay healthy. Is he worth paying 35 million over the next 2 years? For a lot of teams the answer is probably no. For the Bears though, he might just be. And here is why. One, he's very familiar with Ben Johnson, and he would also immediately be the best player on the interior of our O-line. I do not believe that Jackson will be our top priority, but he is a guy who would make a lot of sense, especially if Trey Smith gets re signed by the Chiefs. And that is the current rumor going around. And honestly, if that happens, I don't know if there's a player as young and talented as Jonah Jackson that the Bears could potentially add. Mekhi Becton, Will Fries, and Aaron Banks are all very viable options, but none of them have worked with Ben Johnson. And there's also a scenario here where we could bring in 2 offensive linemen that Ben Johnson worked with in Detroit. If we traded for Jonah Jackson, signing Kevin Zeitler would make even more sense. And then the Bears would have 2 former Pro Bowlers that have both worked with Ben Johnson, anchoring the interior of this O line. Honestly, that is not a bad scenario to consider. I do want to talk about Jackson's play, though. He made the Pro Bowl in 2021, allowing 4 sacks and 35 pressures while also committing 8 penalties. Statistically, it might have actually been his worst season, but if he plays 16 games, he clearly shows Pro Bowl upside. His problem has just been staying healthy for a full season. But he's not as banged up as a lot of offensive linemen, and until this year, he had played at least 12 games every season, but he had been slightly inconsistent, allowing 132 pressures and committing 22 penalties in about 4 seasons. He is not on Trey Smith's level, but I do believe he would be the second best guard on this market ahead of Mekhi Becton and others if he was a free agent. He's not, but I just wanted to show you where he stacks up. He's probably on par with talent with Kevin Zeitler, but he's 5 plus years younger. He's also missed more games and will cost more money, as well as a draft pick to acquire him. So Kevin Zietler probably makes more sense if we're going after a former Lion. But I do think the Bears should definitely give the Rams a call and check in on Jonah Jackson. I do not believe he's going to cost a high draft pick. The Rams have almost no leverage here, and honestly, they probably just want to get out of his contract. This is a situation where we could maybe add a 28-year-old Pro Bowl guard for just a fifth or sixth round pick, maybe even a seventh. And here's why. With Jonah's injury history and his big contract, I don't know how many teams would be interested in trading a high draft pick for him. If you're going to trade for a guard and pay him $35 million, dollars, you better be comfortable with him as a player. And that puts the Bears in a unique position here. With Ben Johnson on board as his former coach, we offer the opportunity to provide comfortability for Jackson to go somewhere he is familiar with and a team that has rare flexibility as well. When it comes to cap space, we could add Jonah Jackson and we would still be able to sign big players in free agency. On top of that, we are a team that needs to majorly upgrade the interior of our offensive line. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say this: trading for a guy who missed 12 games in 2024 really doesn't seem like the best way to build a stable front five. However, we need a major upgrade on the interior of this O line. And I honestly don't know if we're going to find a ton of fully healthy O linemen that have never been hurt in free agency. Will Fries is coming off a broken leg. A lot of draft eligible prospects are also coming off injuries. What about Mekhi Becton, a guy who's actually healthy and played in the Super Bowl, the Eagles guard? He has missed 35 games over the last 5 seasons, including only playing one game total from 2021 to 2023. In that same time frame, Jonah Jackson only missed 4 starts and honestly looks like a beacon of health compared to some other free agents. Also, Jonah Jackson, even though he only played 4 games this season, he is fully healthy now. He returned and started the final game of the season, and then he started both playoff games for the Rams. So he's not currently recovering from an injury like Will Fries is or some of the other guys. And listen, every time a player requests to be traded, Bears fans and media guys talk about it. And most of the time, it's absolute nonsense and clickbait. But this time, Jonah Jackson might actually make sense. Depending on how the market plays out, this is a guy who could really be a perfect fit for the Bears. If Trey Smith hits the market, he's clearly our top option. And there's a lot of other guys out there that make a ton of sense. But if we miss out on our top targets in free agency, or if Ryan Poles wants to go after the defensive line when it comes to the free agent market, trading for Jonah Jackson would make a ton of sense. So keep an eye on this one, guys. The NFL Combine practices start tomorrow, live on NFL Network. I'll have my top 10 Bears targets for pick number 10, as well as potential left tackle options for the Bears, and a ton more content on the way. Stay tuned. Remember to hit that like button for me. And until next time, bear down.